Oh, we need them. Yeah, I need them today.
Yes,
I need them in the worst way. I'm talking about strategies. Strategies for living, that is. Are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
That's a big question that probably we will answer before the end of the hour. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome into 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillan. She is psychotherapist, PLPC, Lauren Leon McMillan. And you are especially excited about today because you're a dog person.
I am, as I sit here with our little familiaris, if you will.
Yeah. We'll get to why you are calling him that. Can you imagine? And our life strategist has this experience. We're going to ask him about it. He is David Wroblewski, and he writes his first big novel, right?
Right.
And then Oprah decides to make it one of her book club selections. Can you imagine that?
I can't, but that's got to be the highest compliment.
Well, she didn't stop there.
No?
No, because this was back in 2008 when the story of Edgar Sawtelle came out.
Right.
And so she makes it one of her book club selections. And then, the time of the year rolled around for Oprah's favorite things, right?
Of course.
And she includes this book in her favorite things, and it was like a real special thing because in 2008 she was like doing the non-material stuff,
Right.
But she included this book because she thought it was that good.
We had to have some material.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, we've got a lot to cover with David Wroblewski today, including not just the story of Edgar Sawtelle, which was that first massive best-selling, New York Times best-selling book, but now he's got a second. He's got a second book, and guess what? It's part of 2024 Oprah's book club.
That is some good stuff.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's good.
I can't wait to talk about all of that. But
she just doesn't bark up the tree for no reason.
No, and you got Oprah, and then you've got on the cover of the book a little endorsement from a guy that probably is going to make something of himself, Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, he says Wroblewski has set a storytelling bonfire. Familiaris is as expansive and enlightening a saga as has ever been written. Can you imagine?
I'm just excited to talk to David too.
Yeah, I am too. I'd
tell his secrets, maybe.
I don't know if he's going to be able to talk to us because he's probably busy pinching himself. Yeah. Hey, folks, as always, we've got a great life strategist today, David Wroblewski. Thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here with us, and we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Learning RX, Pintail Roofing, and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. Back in a moment to meet best-selling author David Wroblewski, our life strategist today, right here on Strategies for Living. Dealing with stress, pain, feel like you're running out of options? When your life is balanced, wellness is a given. True wellness is holistic. It's about the mind, the body, and the spirit, all in balance. Now, there's a place right here in Shreveport that's all about helping us achieve peak mental, emotional, and physical health. The Balanced Life, 117 Kings Highway, right next door to Strawn's. Come see and feel the difference getting your life in balance can be. Many of your friends and neighbors have already learned the difference less stress and pain mean in their lives. You can book a discovery session right now online, thebalancedlife.us. All you've got to lose is stress, pain, or maybe both. Come see and feel for yourself the real difference balanced wellness makes. The Balanced Life Wellness Center, 117 Kings Highway in Shreveport, next door to Strawn's, thebalancedlife.us. Hey, welcome in. Welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. Let's welcome into the program David Wroblewski. He is the author of the internationally best-selling novel, The Story of Edgar Sawtelle. As I mentioned, an Oprah Book Club pick, Barnes & Noble Discover Great New Writers Selection, and winner of the Colorado Book Award, Indie Choice Best Author Discovery Award, and the Midwest Bookseller Association's Choice Award. The story of Edgar Sawtelle has been translated into over 25 languages, and now he has a brand new book out. It is called Familiaris, and it too is an Oprah Book Club. All right, quit pinching yourself there, David. Welcome to Strategies.
Welcome, David.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So, you had you written before? Edgar Sawtelle was your first novel. You had not tried to write a novel or get a book published before that, had you?
That's correct, no.
Wow. Okay, so I got to ask what that was like, my friend, to have that kind of success.
Right out the gate.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
Well, in a word, unexpected. Mm-hmm. I think anybody who is writing a novel, a first novel, should reasonably assume that it's your practice novel, right. And it's not going to get published. And if it does get published, it's not going to get much attention. And that's really where I was. That's where I had set my expectations. I consider myself an apprentice to the craft then, and I still do. So I considered it a triumph that the book got published, period.
Yeah.
And had no expectations, certainly not that Oprah would pick it for her book club. All you can do is roll with these things, and it was great news. So I was very honored, and tried to do right by the good luck that I'd had.
So the story of Edgar Sawtelle, Gar, right? It's a pretty intricate. It's a coming of age novel, is it not?
Yes, there are different ways to describe it. You could call it a coming of age novel. That would be true too.
Pretty expensive. I mean, again, for a first-time author, right out of the gate. Some people may look at it and say, wow, what a novel for a debut novel. Did it just kind of drop into your mind? Was it more evolutionary or revolutionary, David? I mean, for years, did you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to write a novel, or did it go download to you?
Oh, wouldn't it be great if it worked that way?
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to tell us it would,
Yeah. And actually, the truth is, it was a little of both. The original conception for the idea for the novel came very quickly, and I guess a minute or two. I was interested in writing about a story that involved dogs, and I wanted it set in a rural area, and there were certain old ancient stories that I was familiar with, and
kind of like Hamlet, maybe.
Yes, that's one. So I, in a very short period of time, I went, I can replay that story with changes that I have in mind. On the farm where I grew up, I'll just take away all the people who were there and put in all new people to play out the story. So that was the original idea. It didn't take long to have. It took me 15 years to execute on it, though. And that involved a lot of learning the craft.
I'm always fascinated. Lauren and I both are always fascinated to talk to authors and to kind of pick their brains. What did you do before you became a double best-selling author? How did you make a living? How did you make a life?
I have a degree in computer science. I fell in love with programming.
Wow.
When I was for one semester in college when I was a freshman, I was a theater major, and discovered I was uniquely unsuited to being an actor. And at the same that same semester, I started fooling around with a computer that my boss in the little fast food restaurant where I was working had bought a computer, and I started fooling around with it, and it my just sort of intellectually, I just responded to it like, oh, I get this, I understand what this is about, and I was fascinated with it. It seems miles away from writing novels, but it's really not. Because programming is all about making stuff with language.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a certain element of craft that transfers perfectly. You learn in programming. Well, first of all, programming teaches you craft. It teaches you how to work with language in a really precise way. And it teaches you to persevere. You learn that you're not going to get things right the first time, and that's okay. And you have to just go back again and again and again, and be willing to experiment, try alternatives, until you find something that is satisfactory. It may not be the perfect thing, but it's satisfactory.
Yeah.
So all those skills and those sort of those life talents and others carried over to the world of writing novels in a way that was very helpful to me.
When you go out to speak, or when somebody asks you, tell me about your book, the story of Edgar Sawtelle. How do you even begin to describe it in a handful of words for a presentation or for a conversation? Because I'm gonna first of all, I want our audience, our listeners, to understand that the book we're talking about today is actually a prequel to that book. So I don't want people to feel like, oh, I can't go get Familiaris, which we're going to talk about today, before I go read, and get Edgar Sawtelle, right? So you can go ahead and read Familiaris first because it's the prequel.
And actually, you're absolutely right. You can read them in either order, and that was intentional. You'll have one experience if you read them in one order. You'll have a different experience if you read them in the other order. But there's nothing in either of them that is a necessary knowledge to read the other.
Yeah. So how do you describe Edgar Sawtelle, the story of Edgar Sawtelle, when you are asked to, hey, tell us what this book is about, or you go make a presentation and you're talking to
the elevator pitch, right?
Yeah. What's the elevator pitch for Edgar?
That is the single hardest question you can ask a novelist, right?
Yeah.
The reason
we specialize in that.
The whole reason that we're novelists is we can't explain things in a few words. So.
The good news is it's an hour radio program, and you're the only guest, so that's the good news.
Well, we can get a start on it in an hour. I like to just explain the setting and a little bit of the premise. The setting is it's 1972 in northern Wisconsin, and there's this family, the Sawtelles, that have been raising and training what is a fictional breed of dog, but a breed of dog that they've been breeding for generations, and those dogs have a sort of extraordinary qualities. They've been bred for an extraordinary level of perception and companionship.
Right.
And the third generation of the Sawtelles is this boy, Edgar Sawtelle. He's born mute but not deaf, so he communicates in sign. And we follow him through his childhood, and at one point in his childhood, when he's about 14 years old, a disaster befalls the family, and the novel really concerns how he comes to understand the nature of that disaster and what he's going to do with the information once he understands it.
Interesting. Do you describe yourself? Are you a dog person? I guess you are, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Grew up with dogs. I grew up with dogs. Have had dogs virtually all my life. When I was first out of college, for about 10 years, I didn't own a dog, and but otherwise, I've always had dogs. I'm one of those people who goes to a party, and I'd rather talk to the dogs than to the people.
Yeah.
And I generally seek out the dogs first, and then after I relax, I might be willing to talk to the people if the dogs like the people.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a dog person for sure.
You ever notice their paws smell like popcorn?
But yes, and that's absolutely in the book.
I don't want to give away too much. You know,
they do smell like dogs' paws do smell like popcorn.
Yeah.
They do.
I read that, and I thought I've never,
You never thought about it?
No,
My
I mean,
mom
I
actually
loved.
described it as Fritos, but I totally get popcorn too.
I've always loved. I mean, I've always been drawn to the smell of dogs' little paws.
Yeah.
But I've never
Been able to describe
I've
them.
never put I've never put popcorn with it. But when I read that, I think David Wroblewski is a genius.
Okay, end of show. We're good.
Thank you for coming today.
If only I had known, I would have just cut straight to the popcorn line.
We've started talking about the first tremendous novel, the story of Edgar Sawtelle, and people have waited a long time for the next book, and it's here. And it is a 2024 Oprah's Book Club selection. It is the story of Edgar Sawtelle's prequel, and it's called Familiaris, at your favorite bookseller right now. We're talking to David Wroblewski today, right here on Strategies for Living. Come back, and we've got a lot more to learn and a lot more to share today. Hey, let's talk about the Robinson Film Center. I say it a lot. There's no place like the Robinson.
Absolutely, there is not.
617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. You've got so much. You got the movies. You got Abby Singer's Bistro on the second floor of RFC, open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Saturday.
Newly remodeled.
Absolutely. Great menu. RobinsonFilmCenter.org is the way you check it all out. You can go to RobinsonFilmCenter.org at any time and find out what movies are showing. Here's the deal. You want to join the crowd, join the fun, become a member. When you become a member, you become a star. You get discounts on movies, you get concession upgrades, you get bistro deals. RFC, 617 Texas Street in downtown Shreveport. I'll say it again. There's no place like the Robinson.
There is not, and I'm glad we have one right here.
Absolutely. The RobinsonFilmCenter.org.
Reading begins not in the classroom, but in your child's brain. I'm Donisa Walker with LearningRx Shreveport. If your child struggles to read, maybe he or she has trouble focusing or comprehending, LearningRx Shreveport offers a science solution to reading problems, working one-on-one with your child, targeting his or her reading skills. Today, call LearningRx Shreveport. Make an appointment to have your child assessed. I know you want to help your child, so does LearningRx Shreveport.
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. Our life strategist today, David Wroblewski. He is the author, best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author of the story of Edgar Sawtelle. And now he's got a follow-up. People have been waiting for it a long, long time. It's called Familiaris, and it's a 2024 Oprah's Book Club selection, and you'll find it wherever you buy books. I watched Oprah a couple of nights ago give a speech at the Democratic National Convention, and I have to ask this, David. Did you get a chance to meet Oprah? I can't do it.
You cracked a little there.
Oprah!
Yes, we met twice. Once when she picked Edgar, and now this summer we had a chance to meet her when she picked Familiaris. So yes, absolutely.
Is she as down to earth as she comes across? I mean, is Oprah?
Absolutely, and there's something really marvelous and astonishing about it. There is no who she is, who we've seen her be on television. It's just absolutely genuine to who she is.
I think that's probably been a lot of her success.
Yeah.
That she's just who she is. She's genuine.
Absolutely, and at some level, it's a little bit shocking because it's hard to believe that the people you see with that kind of media exposure, that they're really just being themselves.
Yeah.
But my experience is that who you think she is exactly who she is, and she is extraordinarily easy to talk to. It's some kind of superpower that she has.
Yeah. Now, after the publication, the success, all that got, you got caught up in the story of Edgar Sawtelle, how long did it take you to make the decision to write Familiaris and to write it as a prequel instead of something else?
I knew that the next book was Familiaris, that it was entitled Familiaris, and then it was about Edgar's grandfather. I knew all that almost before I'd finished the story of Edgar Sawtelle.
Really? Really?
Yeah. What had happened was this deep secondary character, Edgar's grandfather, doesn't appear in that story, but there's family legends about him.
Yeah.
And as I would be drafting the book, I kept diverting into these stories about John Sawtelle, and they didn't belong in the book, and I'd have to leave them out. And eventually, I sort of made a deal with myself. I like to say that I made a deal with John that if he was still interesting after Edgar's book was done, John could have his own book. And so by the time I'd finished the story of Edgar Sawtelle, I'd accumulated, in my mind at least, all kinds of impressions of John. I knew who he was, and I wanted to tell his life story. And so I knew where I was starting from. I knew him as a character and what he was like.
This may sound like a weird question. This may sound like a real weird question. Not to Lauren, though.
No, I think I know where you're going.
Do your characters talk to you?
Yeah.
Do you have a communication with John and Mary and Edgar? I mean, do they talk to you?
It not per se talk to me. What is true is that the telling of the story, the materials of the story as I'm working on the drafts, the partial writing, the thing that's half finished, is you have a sort of conversation with that as you're constructing a story. And the conversation goes something like, all right, I'm going to build you, and I think this is the way I'm going to build you so that the reader experiences this story the way I want. And the story says, no, I'm not going to be very good at that. I'm going to be good at something else that might be adjacent to that, but is not exactly that. And then the nature of the conversation is that you have to decide as the writer, am I going to take this apart and put it back together and force it to be exactly what I wanted it to be? Or am I going to take my cues from what it's turning out to be and follow that along? And there is no one right answer. Sometimes you Sometimes you have to do one thing. You say, no, it's really important that it go this way.
Right.
And other times you have to be, at least in my case, I have to be flexible and say, okay, that's what it's being good at. So let's go down that path. So it's not a conversation in the literal sense, and it's not with the characters themselves, but really with the story.
So Familiaris is the origin story of the Sawtelle family, the remarkable dogs also that carry the Sawtelle name. And you take us back to the spring of 1919, and John Sawtelle has kind of let his imagination get him in trouble again, right?
Yes, exactly. The one thing I knew about John, there's a line in the story of Edgar Sawtelle describing him in a phrase as having been born with an extra share of whimsy. And one of the reasons why I wanted to write Familiaris is I wanted to find out what that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an off the cuff line that I wrote,
Right.
and it captured my imagination. Like what does it mean to be a person like that who has an extra share of whimsy? And so the nature of him as a character is that he has a million ideas going all the time. He's just overflowing with ideas. And he's a young man when the story starts. And it sounds great to have a million ideas, but when you have a million ideas, you have too many ideas to execute on.
Yeah.
Right. So for that kind of person, and I know people like that, and to a degree I was like that. That part of maturing, part of taking the next step in life is narrowing down the set of possibilities so that you can find the one that is the most important to you.
Yeah.
And so the beginning of this novel is the story of a certain set of events that force John and he's a newlywed and his wife Mary to sort of go away to this farm that they've discovered specifically to discover what they want to do with their life.
Now they're going along with their 3 dogs and also with their 2 best friends, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, and they're going to Wisconsin.
The story begins in southern Wisconsin. The story of Edgar Sawtelle takes place in northern Wisconsin, and for various reasons that involved sort of consistency between the 2 books. Yeah. It begins at an automobile factory in southern Wisconsin in a town called Hartford. So we spend a little time there. The reader spends a little time there, and we find out why he's there, and we get to meet these 2 friends, and we get to understand his relationship with Mary, and then they set off on this adventure.
Yeah. And are they setting off for the adventure for the sake of the adventure, or are they trying to find something out about life or about themselves, or is there a purpose to that adventure?
They don't know that at the time. They're setting off. They're doing the thing that I think young people are uniquely able to do, which is to say, I'm going to leave it all behind, and we're going to go somewhere. Don't know what this is going to turn out to be. It may be folly in the end, but we're gonna bet it all on going somewhere and just trust that we're going to find out what it is that we want to do with our lives by doing that.
So their dogs, their friends, they set out, and can I say that they have an encounter that's a little bit otherworldly along the way?
That's fair.
Yeah, is that okay?
That would be fair. Absolutely. The book is divided into 6 parts, and one of the 6 parts tells the backstory of a character that shows up in the story of Edgar Sawtelle, and her name is Ida Payne. In the story of Edgar Sawtelle, she only appears a few times. And she runs a little corner grocery store, but she's sort of a backwoods oracle. she has certain powers,
gifts, if you will,
and just like I wanted to understand John and what it meant for him to be born with an extra share of whimsy, I also wanted to understand who Ida was, so there's a whole section of the book that tells her backstory and how she came to have the qualities that she has.
With an endorsement on the front of the book from a guy like Tom Hanks, I got to ask, has Hollywood been knocking at your door? Are we going to see a movie here with Edgar Sawtelle or with Familiaris? Or inquiring minds want to know, David.
There's nothing I know of in the works, but Hollywood is a mysterious place, and how they decide to what books are interesting, which books aren't, is beyond my pay grade.
Yeah.
So I often think that a novelist's job is to write a book that it would be impossible to turn into a movie, because then it is uniquely suited then it is a novel or a movie.
Yeah.
So I actually, with the story of Edgar Sawtelle, one of the rules of thumb that I had is, what can I do here that a movie could never do? It would really require you to read it to have the correct experience.
And I'm glad you're saying that, because that's one of the magics. That's one of the magical things about books. There's a lot of movies that do a pretty good job with books. However, books are special.
Yep.
Books are books, and this guy, our life strategist today.
This is a special book.
David Wroblewski has written a couple of special books, and his new one is called Familiaris. It's a follow-up to the story of Edgar Sawtelle. We'll be back with more with David Wroblewski, our life strategist today, here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us. You're going to see the difference. When you go to Azalea Cleaners, you'll hear about it, too. Azalea Cleaners has been fine dry cleaning since 1958, plus laundry, alterations and repairs, comforters, wedding gown cleaning and restoration. You'll hear about it from your friends because they'll see it, too. They'll notice the Azalea difference. Azalea is convenient. 732 Azalea Drive, 9220 Ellerby Road, and 9227 Mansfield Road. Plus, the front door of your home or business with Azalea's delivery on demand. Just text SETUP to 249-8283, and Azalea will pick up your clothes and deliver them back clean and fresh to you. You can't get closer than that. That's the Azalea difference. You'll notice it right away. Others will too. The Azalea difference. Fine dry cleaning since 1958. Text SETUP to 249-8283 and get the Azalea difference. AzaleaCleaners.com. And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan and David McMillan with our life strategist, David Wroblewski. He is the author, the best-selling, New York Times best-selling author of the story of Edgar Sawtelle. And now, the follow-up book to that. People have been waiting a long time for Familiaris, and it is a 2024 Oprah's Book Club selection. And David Wroblewski is our life strategist today here on Strategies for Living. So, David, there's a lot of people that are probably listening to us that are inspired by your story. Your debut novel hits it out of the park. This follow-up is going to hit it out of the park. A lot of people say, I got a book in me. What do you say to those folks? You are now a double best-selling author. I'm going to ask you to earn your life strategist stripes here. What do you say to people that say, I think I got a book in me?
Get started. There is no way to know. Every book is an experiment. So if you wait, you cannot wait to be sure that that is true, and then start the book. That's not the way writing works. You have to just start, and you'll find out. It might be true. It might not be true. But you have to start and trust that you're going to learn something one way or another.
Yeah.
And you might learn that you hate writing. Like as we talked about earlier, I was a theater major for one semester.
Yeah.
And the reason why it only lasted a semester is I had never tried it before. I just took it on faith that was what I would do as a kid. Growing up in very rural areas, I didn't have any exposure to the arts. So the only artistic expression I really had ever had any exposure to was television and acting. Yeah. So I thought that's what I want to do. But then when I tried it, I discovered it was boring. It was a lot of work. It wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
And it was obviously going to require a great deal of study and craft and devotion, and in fact it didn't interest me, which was good news in a way. I discovered quickly that wasn't the right thing. I could move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing applies to writing a book. No one is when you're writing your first book, no one feels like they know what they're doing, and there is no way to shortcut it besides give it a try, honestly study the craft. There are great books on writing out there. Wasn't true.
Do you write something? Do you write every day? Are you one of those writers that is disciplined enough to write every day for a certain number of hours a day? How do you do it?
When I'm working on a project, I work every day. Whether I write first draft or not depends on where I am in the novel. It's a very different kind of work. First drafting, and then the middle drafts, the many middle drafts, and then the final drafts. It's all a different kind of work. So I do work every day. When I'm not on a project, or if I'm specifically taking a break, which I do, then I'm not. Then I stay away from it, and I need to do that sometimes to recharge, because the work is extraordinarily difficult.
Mm-hmm. I got to ask a little bit about the dogs. Did you toy with the idea of using a real breed of dogs? Because you ended up, the Sawtell dogs are a fictional breed. Did you toy with that a bit?
Yeah, in fact, that's a really interesting question. No one has asked me that. The earliest drafts, and again, this goes back to a novel being an experiment. The early drafts, there was a specific breed of dog. And what I noticed is when I would give it to friendly readers to sort of tell me how is this working, in what ways is it right, in what ways is it wrong, they always had specific associations with that breed that I didn't want them to have. It could be good, could be bad. They would have a memory of an interaction with that, and so eventually it finally occurred to me it doesn't have to be any specific breed of dog that exists. It's more interesting if it is a breed of dog, and if I specifically under-describe it, so everyone can construct
their
this
own,
new breed of dog for themselves. And that was an experiment, but it did turn out to work, and that's the way I rolled with it. So, but really interesting question.
Are you working on a new novel now, or what's ahead for David Wroblewski? Do you know?
I do know what the next novel is. I have two books that are sort of in the planning stage. One's a novel, and one is a very small nonfiction book. And I'm not gonna talk about. It's just bad luck to talk about these things ahead of time. I don't mind saying that I'm planning them. But
you don't want to give away too much about it.
That's all the crumbs we get today.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Just because if you talk it out, then you don't write it out, and that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. You in the prologue of the first book, there's kind of a setting of menace and mystery. I got to ask you, did you write that first, or did you write and then come back and write the prologue?
Man, it's been a while now. I have to think for a second whether I wrote the prologue first. No, I did not write the prologue first. I think I was maybe halfway into the first draft of the entire book before I wrote that prologue. But that's the way it works with novels. You don't know. You have to start somewhere, and this is one of the lessons that I had to learn as a writer. You have to start somewhere for yourself just to get the process rolling.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's where the book starts. That's just what kind of bootstraps you into the writing process.
Yeah.
And so you have to hold that relatively loosely and wait. Again, it's this discovery with this conversation with the half-made thing. You wait and you pay attention to the book and you say, what do you think the right starting point is?
We got about a minute left in this segment. What do you want people to take away from your books? What do you hope that people take away from Familiaris and from the story of Edgar Sawtelle?
It's very simple. I think of a novel as an experience to have, not a message or a lesson or anything like that. I think of it. It's way more like a ride at a theme park. I want you to get in the ride and have the experience.
Get in the ride, strap in, and let's go. Right.
Right. Exactly. And what you make of it, and what the things that it makes you think about, every reader is going to be different in that regard. So I want somebody to come away with it by having had an experience, and novels do that in a way that no other art form does.
Amen.
In a novel way.
In a novel way. David Wroblewski, our life strategist. His new book, people have been waiting for it, Familiaris. At your favorite bookseller right now. It's a follow-up, or actually a prequel, to the story of Edgar Sawtelle. Both wonderful books, Oprah Book Club books, and we'll be back to wrap up with David Wroblewski today here on Strategies for Living. Don't go away.
Hi, this is Jay Merle for Pintail Roofing. Let's talk about quality. When you hire Pintail to build your roof, here's what you can expect. Quality and quality control are the most important concerns for us at Pintail, and you need to know that Pintail stands tall with swift and professional performance on any warranty call. This is our most important policy. And remember, we're your neighbors. We'll be here for you for the long haul. Our family's lived here for over 100 years, and we aren't going anywhere. On the commercial side of Pintail's business, our fluid-applied roofing solutions can save thousands of dollars over conventional commercial roofing options. Call Pintail at 226-ROOF for a free inspection of your home or commercial building. That's 226-7663. Pintail Roofing. What's the condition of your roof?
It's amazing. Hey, welcome back, folks. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. When you got a guy like our life strategist today, David Wroblewski, it is always amazing to me. It's like,
where did the time go?
Where did the time? Yeah, we've been, we're an hour, but it just feels like about 7 minutes or so, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Folks, welcome back into Strategies for Living. You got to get these books. The brand new one, David Wroblewski's new book, and it's an Oprah Book Club 2024 selection, Familiaris. It is the prequel to the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Story of Edgar Sawtelle. You'll find both of them wherever you buy books. David, what do you want to leave with us today here on Strategies for Living?
Well, I guess in terms of strategies for living, I think that novels, not necessarily my novels, but novels are to me an essential element of life, of living a full life.
Oh, I think your novels. I think your novels definitely do that.
And so I always say the right novel for anyone to read is dependent on where they are in their life and what's happened.
My friend,
Yeah.
I'm going to live
He's got
to
a
be.
couple.
I've got a stack, so
In every room, at
My
least.
stack is in every room, so I got to finish them. So I guess I'm going to live till about 115 is the way it's looking right now.
I'm glad for that.
And I'm going back to the bookstore later. David, thank you for being a great life strategist. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living and being with us. And we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center and Azalea Cleaners and Learning RX and Pintail Roofing and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For David Wroblewski, for Lauren Leon McMillan, I'm David McMillan. See you next time, right here on Strategies for Living.